All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Terence Crawford's next move if the Errol Spence Jr. fight does not go through. And according to Oscar De La Hoya, it will be Virgil Ortiz. And we will explain exactly why that is highly likely. Should be highly likely if everything was right in the world. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Welcome back to the channel. We are going to be talking about Terence Bud Crawford and Virgil Ortiz, which is likely to be ordered by the WBO if Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight is not going to be made. Big fight if it takes place. Oscar De La Hoya says that that should or very well may be the case, and that is what they're going for. But before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. It is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so let's get into this. This, in my opinion, is good news, and I think something that I definitely hope happens if we do not get the fight that we want to get between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford for the undisputed title, welterweight title. Now, this weekend, there is a fight coming up between Virgil Ortiz and Michael McKinnison. And if you're not familiar with Virgil Ortiz, you should definitely get familiar with Virgil Ortiz. He's the #1 ranked welterweight by the WBO. I also believe he's in the top 3 of every sanctioning body, similar to Jaron Ennis. He's out of the state of Texas, out of Dallas, Texas. I don't think he's from DeSoto like Errol Spence Jr. is from DeSoto, but from pretty much the same area as Errol Spence Jr. And he is a fantastic fighter, up and coming fighter, young dude, pretty much winning most of his fights by knockout. I don't have his record in front of me. However, his, knocked out guys like Ease Kalvanakis, beat Maurice Hooker, in a fight where, Maurice Hooker was a good fighter coming in. But Virgil Ortiz is a very, very strong, aggressive young fighter and somebody that I do think is one of the best welterweights in the world and somebody that may actually pan out to be the best welterweight, right? So, as we know, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford are in negotiations, have been in negotiations for a while. As every day goes by, it seems like there's little less and less likely that the fight's going to happen. Latest words have been, and I'm telling you, I listen to everything around that fight because that's really what's interesting in boxing right now is whether or not that fight is going to happen. And I have pretty much dedicated myself to having as much fun and appreciating boxing in every aspect of boxing as I can. So when we go through the business things and all that, I pay close attention to that because in the future, it'll make it easier to predict and to know whether or not some of these fights are going to happen, right? So the last couple words that I've heard that I thought was significant related to that fight was something Derek James said in an interview where Derek James was like, pretty much like, yeah, I want that fight. We want that fight, but people are not going to break the bank to get that fight. And then you have Steven Espinoza, who is the president of Showtime Sports or the head of Showtime Sports. If I messed up his title, please forgive me, who says, look, I'm still, the fight is not dead. There's obstacles to overcome. Is better than a 50% chance that the fight will happen this year. All right. Now, if you know anything about about corporate language, telling somebody that is basically a better than 50% chance is telling you that there's a high probability that it's not going to happen. Because if you got 50, if it's higher than 50, greater than 50, what do you mean 60? So if you go all the way up to 60 and then you say, okay, well, there's a 40% chance that it won't happen. And one of the major issues are clearly the money, right? That right there means that, man, there's a good probability that that fight is not going to happen, right? So unfortunate that that's the case, but it's boxing, and at the end of the day, these guys are not going to make fights where they think they've got to spend a ton of money and also at the same time risk losing one of their big cash cows, which would be Errol Spence. So the question that I've shifted to for both Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford has been, okay, what is going to happen next, right? Where are these guys going to go? And this conversation that took place with Oscar De La Hoya, it makes sense to me because Oscar De La Hoya is saying, look, after this fight, we want the winner of Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. And we are Virgil Ortiz is the number one ranked guy by the WBO to fight Terence Crawford. Now, the number two guy in that division is Jaron Ennis, right? However, if you understand how the WBO works and their relationship with the PBC, and you look at like the relationship maybe of the WBO, WBC, the WBA, and the IBF with the PBC, right? It's much more likely that the non-PBC fighter is going to get the mandate from the WBO. The WBO and the PBC at one point in time had hinted that they were going to stop considering the WBO major championship belt for the purposes of when they're marketing their fighters and they're talking about who the champions are. They were going to start ignoring the WBO, right? So when the WBO winds up after that giving Sean Porter a mandatory shot at Terence Crawford. Now, as far as when this mandatory is going to be due, the mandatory is going to be, they can order a fight anytime after November, because Terence Crawford has had his last fight was a WBO mandatory, and you're supposed to have one every year, right? Now, I do not believe that he had a WBO mandatory for 2 years before, at least 2 years before that. So the WBO may very well say, okay, man, if you don't have a fight set and we don't know where you're going to fight, and it's already been a year, we're going to do you like Gary Russell Jr. in the WBC, when the WBC puts mandatories every year on Gary Russell Jr. Now, this would be what I would think for Terence Crawford would be almost be a little bit of a shame if he had to do that, because Virgil Ortiz is not an easy fight. Now, I'm not telling you that I think, and I hope that you understand the distinction that I'm making. I'm not saying that I believe that Virgil Ortiz will beat Terence Crawford. What I'm saying is that is a tough fight for Terence Crawford, and you do not know what to expect when you are now 36 years old and you're fighting some real hungry 23, 24-year-old guy that has the power that Virgil Ortiz does, and the size that Virgil Ortiz does. Because Virgil Ortiz, I believe, would definitely be the biggest guy that Terence Crawford has fought at that weight class since he's been there, with the exception maybe of Jeff Horn, who I do not believe is anywhere near the level of fighter that Virgil Ortiz is. Virgil Ortiz, in my opinion, is after Errol, Terence, and Jaron Ennis, he may be the fourth best guy in that division. It's either him or Keith Thurman for me. Either him or Keith Thurman. But guys like Egis like you saw what he did with Egis Kalvanakis. He knocked out Egis Kalvanakis in short order. I mean, pretty much as soon as he pressed the gas on Egis Kalvanakis, he got Egis Kalvanakis out of there. I think he may, he may be able to get guys like Danny Garcia would be a good fight. I might actually even take Virgil Ortiz over him. But, that would just be a really, really risky fight for Terence Crawford, and something he may have to do in order to keep that belt. Now, Terence has said that he would be moving up to 154 pounds if he doesn't get the Errol Spence Jr. fight. He'd be moving up to 154 to try to get that fight with Jermell Charlo, but that fight is at least all the way off to the middle part of next year. But anyway, it goes. Can't wait to see what happens. Love this type of boxing talk, man. This is the nuts and bolts of how boxing operates. So if you listen to here, you're going to learn a lot. I hope you did in this video. Please make sure you leave that comment in the comment section. Hit that like, subscribe, share the video. Your contribution, we greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.